As long as I can remember, I've always known RWBY existed. Despite never watching the series, I was never too far away from it. What's funny is that I've also never watched anything Rooster Teeth related before, with the exception of the occasional Death Battle episode. This ignorance extends to the creator of the series, Monty Om, alongside the animations he created. For years, I would see the series appear to me in some way, whether it be a reference in a YouTuber's video, or just seeing the music recommended to me on the internet. This would go on for years. The most notable example, or technically examples, of this would be the reposting of Red Like Rose Part 1-2 by Taiseidou No Bosatsu. This felt off. Yeah, I've seen many songs I chose not to listen to up to this point, but something about it felt off. Like the drawing of RWBY in the thumbnail was actually looking at me, demanding that I watch. Despite this, I never listened to a single song. This would go on for about every day as long as I would listen to music. One day, I wanted to get into fighting games, but at the time I couldn't actually afford one. Luckily, there was a demo for BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. While there weren't many characters to play, I decided to settle on Hyde and Yu. While those were the characters I chose to play, I was curious in regards to RWBY. I never played her, of course, but something made me consider playing her every single time I booted up the game. Stuff like this would keep happening off and on until one day I couldn't escape it anymore.
This realm will be mine, and no one can stop me.
You'll have to get through us first.
So be it.
One of my favorite multiplayer games, Paladins, had a crossover with RWBY, and I was genuinely enthusiastic about it due to one of my favorite characters, Sati, getting his skin during that event. But this was not the catalyst for me to watch the series. No. Rather, the thing that sparked my curiosity was the one thing I ignored but couldn't escape any longer. It sounded like the voice of an angel. However, in hindsight, I debate whether or not it was the calling of a siren. Either way, I was hooked.
Some roses will never bloom. Some trains will run on the vine. Some lives will end much too soon.
After the event was over, I got a little curious about the show, and so I watched some videos about the series. While I heard some less than fortunate news about it, I never got around to watching the series. It was a year later when I was doing some spring cleaning, I got bored listening to the same old songs, and so looking at the list, I saw some songs that were available at the time, and I saw it. Again. I already enjoyed the song I listened to before, so it wouldn't hurt to have a listen. Just one listen. Then one turned into two turned into the rest of the hour. Then the next day, I would play it on loop. Then I would listen to more, such as This'll Be the Day, I Burn, Time to Say Goodbye, and many, many more. After I listened to the music for about half a month, I began to start the series, just a week before Volume 9 came out. Ironically, I didn't even know it was coming out, to be honest. And I didn't even watch the first 4 trailers until I finished the first volume. And oh boy, the crossover with Paladins did not do this show justice. It was so cool. The show was constantly towing the line between video game and TV show on the drop of a dime. This show was just so stylish. There's no other way to describe it. Stylish is the best way to describe it. The way it implemented color was just brilliant. I hadn't seen it before outside the Bayonetta series. Yeah, it was very rough around the edges, such as its lackluster story, or lack thereof, but it was a decent start, and had an interesting world that the characters inhabited. So there were some things I was willing to overlook, especially for the level of detail the show had, but that's a story for another day. But overall, I really enjoyed the series by the time I was done. I'd say my favorite characters were Sun and Volume 1 through 4 Yang. I would like to see more of characters like Scarlet, Sage, Mercury, and Emerald. Although I'm giving my praise, my feelings towards the show shifted when I got to Volume 6. I don't know what happened, but it felt different. And it wasn't because it was bad either, because the previous volume was objectively worse.
Well, gave them the ability to turn into birds.
Now you're just messing with us.
What else is new?
But somehow, this one felt off, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Feeling stayed for the rest of the series, and over time, the series became boring. Weapons, semblances felt tacked on. very hollow. The characters felt like they weren't even the same characters. Yes, I know over time characters are supposed to change, but they started to feel more like puppets than actual characters. But to fully understand what I mean, the first 4 volumes were easy to binge, 5 was difficult, but I managed to get through with it. Yeah, the same cannot be said about Volume 6 onward. Through all of the fumbles of the previous volumes, it felt like they were trying. Failing in Volume 5, but trying nonetheless. In Volume 6 onwards, it felt like a completely separate show, and it wasn't until I looked into the history of the show and its fandom, I understood why that was, and boy, I was not prepared.
The fuck is this? The fuck is that? The fuck are those?
And I haven't even read Shane Newville's letter yet. Pretty sure that one's gonna be a doozy. So yeah, I was disappointed, not just in the staff that made it, but was more infuriated by its so-called fan base. It feels like they don't like their own series, and those that claim they do don't have a real reason to enjoy it over countless other shows with a similar premise. There are people who legitimately think RWBY is a perfect series, and while yes, I get why some people are willing to be more forgiving than others, this kind of infuriates me because there are plenty of great series that inspired RWBY, and I like RWBY, but it's also not good. It's disrespectful to the many series that inspired it, but most importantly, disrespectful to RWBY itself, because you can't distinguish it from when it's a genuinely good story from a piece of crap. And to just turn to fanfiction and things outside of it, like ships and stuff like that, I find it very distasteful. Your joy isn't coming from the series. You're merely using it as a conduit for your own gains. And that's very disappointing, because I feel that there's a lot of stuff about RWBY that's very unique to other series that these types of people just don't acknowledge. It's very sad to me. There are many more RWBY watchers that want to do nothing but criticize the series, while only focusing on the flaws of the show. It feels like they never appreciated what made RWBY great to begin with. While yes, I understand wanting to have a better series, and it being as perfect as it could possibly be, there's also appreciating what something is, and what it isn't. Seriously, it feels like other than the rule of cool aspect, or the music, people only started watching the series because it was made by the darlings of the internet at the time, instead of the show's merits. And over time, more and more people stopped watching the show for various different reasons. Things got worse with later volumes, and not many people are watching RWBY now, and I find that very disappointing. Despite me not really seeing RWBY fans, regardless of their stance on the show, as fans, I am still disappointed by it, because I feel that there's still so much to enjoy about RWBY. Stuff that was overlooked, or at least just not given enough of its flowers. From the intricacies of the character designs to how the fairy tale elements were used, symbolism of the characters, the weapons, and overall, and just the overall style, it's just so freaking cool. I have been disappointed with the direction of RWBY after the 6th volume, but with Viz purchasing the IP, they're either going to continue the series from this point, or preferably reboot it. And let me tell you, Viz is going to want some of their money back, which means they're likely going to try to attract new viewers. So, instead of primarily talking about why the show doesn't work, I want to go back through the series and talk about what does work, and what could be expanded upon. Because the last thing I want is for RWBY to be a good show, but lack its identity. Because they're too focused on fixing criticisms. Make no mistake, I want the show to fix everything wrong with it, but I also want it to maintain that thing that keeps me coming back to this show over anything else. Because the truth is, RWBY fans, from what I'm seeing anyway, don't actually... They want a good show. I don't simply want a good show. We got plenty of those. We got Attack on Titan, we got Breaking Bad, we got Death Note, Leverage, Avatar, Bleach. If I really wanted to watch a good show, I would just go watch those series. Because I didn't know much about RWBY before watching, but I already got a heads up that the series wasn't good. I already knew it, so I knew I was gonna have some baggage when I was watching the series, which is why, to an extent, I was so impressed with what I got. I don't want a good show. I want a good RWBY. One that uses what's unique to RWBY. Not Bleach, not Soul Eater, not Gurren Lagann, not Sword Art Online, or any other thing that inspired this series. I want something that is just RWBY, and not anything else. Well, that's it for the video so far. If you want to hear more of my thoughts of the series, subscribe and hit the bell to be notified. This is the first video I'm making. And since you're still watching, I'd like to hear how you first started watching RWBY and your experience with the show in the comments below, if that's alright with y'all. And sorry for being, or at least sounding so pretentious by not calling RWBY fans real fans, but trust me, there is a reason why I say that.